What's going on, guys? James Blonde here with MMOHuts.com, and sadly this time around I didn't get to make it to PAX Prime, but luckily Dizzy PW was able to, and in doing so got us some gameplay footage of a couple of games that we wanted to show you guys. We're not always able to get good interviews or dev plays where the audio comes out nicely and doesn't make your ears bleed, so with this video and a couple of others I'm going to break down the audio and Dizzy's notes to fill you guys in on what's going on. So what you're seeing here is a new MOBA style game along the same lines as Dead Island Epidemic called Kill Strain from San Diego Studios, published by Sony. So for starters, they're taking the unusual approach of launching exclusively on the PlayStation 4 as a free-to-play game. Fingers crossed we see a PC Mac port eventually, and they're talking about it, but for now only PS4 owners are going to get a nice slice of this mutated pie. And seeing that it is on the PS4, you can probably imagine that the controls are a bit different than you're used to in other MOBAs. Now, Kill Strain isn't trying to reinvent the wheel in terms of perspective like Smite and Gigantic, rather they offer the straightforward, destroy the enemy base style gameplay with 5 players on each side. And as you can tell, they're using the less utilized, pure sci-fi setting in this game, and the 4 ability archetype based character roster stands ready as a necessary element of familiarity for avid MOBA players. So you've got your tanks, your supports, your ranged carries, and so on, but you also notice that there's no minions in this game. In fact, there is no AI jungle involved in the map as well. It still looks like a two-pronged MOBA map with plenty of twisting turns to traverse between the primary pathways, but you won't find a single AI-controlled element on the map, unless of course you count the defensive towers themselves. But that's not to say that waltzing between the lanes doesn't have its risks. It's actually quite the opposite. The jungle in this game might be the most frightening of any MOBA ever designed. Mainly because this is where we see the genre-bending feature that seems to make Kill Strain a one-of-a-kind game. While 5 players join up on blue and 5 players join up on yellow, 2 characters become an element of chaos, joining the map as the Infected. These guys aren't just put there to troll the standard humanoid characters for the lulz, rather they actually want to win the round themselves just as the other teams do, making this a 3-way fight to the death. You know, when I say death, it's serious. The way the Infected win is through the spread of their Zergish lava-strewn terrain that has an added bonus of making the Infected entirely invisible while passing through it, and then burning the hell out of any human that tries to walk through it. So it's kind of like the Infected control the Fog of War in this game, and the Fog of War hurts you if you're not infected. Oh, and it also disables towers and healing stations as well, and if that isn't broken sounding enough, the Infected also have the ability to recruit more Infected out of the other 2 teams of humans. See, if a human faction player is knocked out near the edge of their Infected bile, the Infected can grab them and drag them towards one of their little spouty creep tumor looking things. And if they're fast enough in doing so, they can convert an enemy over to the Infected permanently. So it's not exactly easy for them to do, but they have the means of doing that, and that's actually a really cool aspect if you ask me. Now, according to Dizzy, most of the matches that he watched at the show were favored towards the Infected, as you might understand with how broken they sound. He said that pug groups of inexperienced players were too rash, drew too close to the mutant terrain, and fell victim to the conversion early on and gave the Infected the advantage right off the bat. But with the way it's set up, if fought properly with hit-and-run tactics, the human factions can actually turn the tides against the Infected pretty hard in the early game. Now with that said, as a countermeasure, the humans can quickly clear this spreading terrain with special grenades that deal massive damage to the creep tumor things, or towers basically. This grenade also temporarily pushes the surrounding distorted terrain back a bit, giving you more time to react to an approaching mutant ambush while letting you get in range to damage the creep tumor with your base abilities without suffering damage over time. Now, another horrifying mechanic the Infected bring to the battlefield, as if there wasn't enough already, is the evolving infection. So with this, they gain new abilities and increased strength the longer the match drags on, as a form of leveling, I suppose, with a huge difference from the beginning of the match to the end of the match. So by the time you get in 15 minutes into it, if the Infected are already ahead, well, you're pretty much screwed. But then again, like I said, they are outnumbered from the beginning. The humans, on the other hand, have an ultimate ability to help cope with the growing infection, in a sense. Along with their individual abilities, they also have a mech suit that they can obtain once enough canisters have been dropped off by the human team, and these are crucial to strain removal and helping the humans win. They're resistant to all the effects of the strain, so they don't take damage or become slowed by it. However, they have health and are limited by time, so you have to use them wisely once they've been acquired with help from the entire team. So you only get them a couple times during the match depending on how well your team is doing. It's like having an ulti, but you have to earn it. Now, the winning criteria is actually really interesting in this game as well. See, if one faction manages to eliminate the other, the victorious faction wins the round. So that means even if you're not losing, if you aren't winning, then you're still kind of losing. Sort of like in Dead Island Epidemic, I suppose. See, this gives each faction an incentive to keep their rivals on roughly equal footing and makes for some really exciting matches. If one side is dominating another, as the third faction, you need to put the dominating group in line, even if it means ignoring the weak faction for a little while to lend them a hand in 2v1 team battles, which is another cool concept in this game. So seeing that these allegiances can change at the drop of a hat, you never know how your enemies are going to react when the RTS elements override the typical MOBA expectations. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. As you can tell, it can get pretty hectic. Overall, the game seems to have some really cool concepts that stand out amongst the other games in the genre, that's for sure. Which is one of the reasons why I feel like it's kind of like Dead Island Epidemic in a sense. Just a little bit more structured, maybe. According to Dizzy, the controls are really crisp and reactive. They feel really natural on the PS4 controller. The animations are easy to read, even in the chaos mixed melding terrains, and even during the massive team fights, it's actually easy to keep track of your character, which is a lot to say. Dizzy says with a couple of additional maps and a larger roster, it could be a challenger in the MOBA market. But for now, they can find a nice niche with the PS4 crowd. As of now, the game is in a closed beta state of development, but is set to hit a more public beta test in the very near future, so keep an eye out for that. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Get more information about the game at the game profile at MMOHuts.com, and until next time, guys, that's going to be it from me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.